Good morning, everybody, and a happy Wednesday morning to you. You know, it was inevitable that while all this was going on with Andrew, Meghan Markle took another swipe at the royal family, specifically at the Queen. Why does this not surprise me? All right, another long video, but lots of information. Let's jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start off with the Duchess of Gloucester this morning. She attended a special Sunday service at the Cathedral of the Most Holy Trinity while in Bermuda. She was accompanied by the Governor and Commander-in-Chief of Bermuda, His Excellency Andrew Murdoch. Now, the Duchess of Gloucester attended the service. It was called the Sung Eucharist. And as you just saw, when she arrived, she was handed a beautiful bouquet of flowers and greeted by the Reverend Nicholas Dill, who is the Bishop of Bermuda. She was also greeted by an honor guard of Boys and Girls Brigades on the step of the cathedral. Now, if I have it correct, this event and all the other events you're about to see took place on what was her last full day in Bermuda. I have to say, I love what she's wearing. She always seems to dress impeccably. Next up, as Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Bermuda Regiment, she then went and participated in a medal presentation of Royal Bermuda Regiment at Warwick Camp, and this also took place on the 19th, and this was to mark the 60th anniversary of the Royal Bermuda Regiment. Now, this took place at the Royal Bermuda's regimental headquarters. And after talking with people, she also sat down so they could take an official battalion photograph with her in it since she is, leading it. I love this. I think she looks amazing. Now, also while she was there to mark their anniversary, she unveiled the dedication of a regimental time capsule and a plaque with a small child. So that's pretty cool. They put the time capsule into the ground, and she walked proudly up and started shoveling the dirt. Being reported that serving and former soldiers were invited to share their wisdom, hopes, and encouragement on note cards, which were placed alongside the mementos in the legacy box to be unearthed by future members of the battalion. There was also a plaque that was also uncovered as part of the dedication as well. I think that's pretty cool. Now, one other thing that was brought up was the bag she was wearing. I think that's fabulous. And the next thing that happened was Birgit, I believe is actually her name. She was joined by, again, Andrew Murdoch, the governor, and the Lieutenant Governor Duncan Simmons, commanding officer of the Royal Bermuda Regiment, and they went on to the government house and they were there to plant a tree. But first, she had to have a look around on the property. So she walked around looking at all the fabulous trees. There was actually grapefruit on one of the trees, and they took it down and gave her a taste. There were a lot of fruit trees there. And she also chatted with the staff from the Department of Parks before the tree planting ceremony. She then got down to business. She was planting the trees. Now, they actually planted 2 trees. One tree was planted to commemorate her visit, and the other tree was planted in recognition of Mr. Murdoch. I did not know that. She then got down to a troupe. There were 15 dancers and 6 drummers from the Gombe troupe, I believe is how you pronounce it, and they performed for her while she was there. Next up, King Charles sat down with Kate Blanchett, of all people, because they were having a discussion, a podcast, for the 25-year anniversary of the Millennial Seed Bank. It was set up to save certain seeds before they were wiped out by climate and environmental pressures. This podcast, which has been titled Unearthed, was done from the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew, which runs the seed bank, by the way. And Blanchett was also joined by senior research leader in seed conservation, Dr. Eleanor Bremen. This was done in July. All right, next up, King Charles went to Manchester to meet survivors of the car and knife attack which occurred at the Manchester synagogue where 2 people were killed. Of course, he arrived. He looked very somber and sad. The king spent a few minutes outside looking at the memorials that were left for the people that were killed on Yom Kippur before he headed inside. Now, he was met by Rabbi Daniel Walker when he first arrived, and it was Rabbi Walker who then walked him into the synagogue. Now, obviously, Charles is hoping that people will put the focus where it belongs. He then walked into the building where he was greeted by Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mervis, and he then got to meet members of the congregation and hear their stories about what happened on that horrible day. Now, for those of you who don't know what Yom Kippur is, it's the Day of Atonement. It's the holiest day in the year for the Jewish people. It's a day to reflect on our souls and a day in knowing that God will forgive our sins. And it commemorates the day when God forgives the Jewish people for the sin of the golden calf. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Jewish people are taught to ask for forgiveness from a person they have wronged 3 times. And if the offending party doesn't grant forgiveness after the 3rd attempt, the person seeking forgiveness is considered to have atoned, even if forgiveness was not received. When King Charles finally came out from the synagogue, there was like a roar from across the street. The crowds in the area were unbelievable. And leave it up to King Charles to walk right across the street to greet all the people who had stood out there in the rain to meet him. Frankly, I'm surprised his security was able to control this, because what this video doesn't really show you, and what you'll see in a minute from the pictures, was just the amount of people that were there, that surrounded him, that wanted to touch him, shake his hand, speak to him. It must have been an absolute nightmare for his security team. I just can't even fathom. But I'm glad that he went, and I'm glad that he was able to show solidarity with the Jewish community there, because I think with the amount of anti-Semitism, I can't even imagine. And the next thing that Charles did was he visited the Greater Manchester Police Headquarters to hear from staff that represented the police, fire, rescue, and ambulance services, and he spoke to them all about their role responding to the recent events and protecting, the community. While he was there, he met the police, and he also met police dog Jimmy, who helped sniff out any bombs that might have been in the area. Now, again, King Charles is saying that he hopes the focus will be on duty and service and the community impacted by this crime rather than other matters. I mean, can you really blame him? This is where the focus should be. With that, we have to turn our attention to the York family. Here we go. First of all, Princess Beatrice and her husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mosey, attended the grand opening of the Chancery Rosewood on October 14th in London. And I'm glad she went to that before this whole thing blew up, because since then, Eugenie and Beatrice have pulled out of London's Met Gala. Now, they're still on the guest list for the British Museum's inaugural Pink Ball, which, by the way, rivals New York's event, and it's supposed to take place Saturday night. Neither one of them showed up, obviously, because the ball was 24 hours after Andrew announced that he was giving up his royal titles. In the meantime, Beatrice was seen driving to Great Royal Lodge, and obviously, behind the wheel, she looks mightily stressed. Can you really blame her? Poor thing. I mean, she and her sister are getting the, attention it's got nothing to do with her. It is being reported that King Charles has ensured that Beatrice and Eugenie won't be affected by all of this other stuff going on. He has a deep affection and respect for them, it's being said. Now let's talk about those titles. Sarah Ferguson apparently went on her social media accounts and she removed the word Duchess. She did that on her Instagram and she did that on her TikTok. Okay, I'm not really on TikTok per se. I didn't even realize she had a TikTok. Yeah, I know. But she took Duchess off. And in the meantime, the royal family, I'm really disappointed, I have to say, because what they did was they removed the Duke of York and he remains on the website as Prince Andrew. The website should be for working royals only. He needs to be off, just like Harry and Meghan need to be off. They're not working royals. Now, with all of this, Buckingham Palace has said that the allegations against Andrew must be fully investigated. They should be examined in the appropriate way. And this is after the Metropolitan Police confirmed that they are actively looking into the allegations that Andrew attempted to uncover personal information about Virginia Giuffre. A royal source told the BBC they were expecting, quote, more days of pain ahead in the scandal, and that the royal family's focus was on Epstein's victims and the whole network of girls and young women who were abused and treated appallingly. What did we learn from this memoir? Well, there are some big things, but remember, this is all allegedly. There's been no proof of any of this stuff. In the memoir, Miss Giuffre says that she had relations with Prince Andrew on 3 different occasions, with the third time being an orgy with 8 other girls. Number 2, shortly after the orgy, Miss Giuffre said that she had a miscarriage. Number 3, memories of Epstein absolutely torture Virginia Giuffre. 4, Maxwell was part of the abuse. And 5, she was disappointed at Epstein's death because he was not held accountable for his actions. Now, we all know that Virginia Giuffre's family has been on a lot of TV shows. They're giving interviews right and left. And one of the things that they're demanding is the removal of Andrew's titles. Well, they're not alone, because MPs are now demanding legislation to formally strip Andrew of his royal titles, because they're basically in abeyance, is what they're being said. He still has them, but they're in abeyance. Stephen Flynn, the SNP leader at Westminster, said there was no justification for the government not to bring forward legislation to remove those titles from Andrew and Lord Mandelson. Lord Mandelson is a Labour peer who was sacked as British ambassador to the United States in September following revelations about his friendship with Epstein. So Mr. Flynn said he's not going to sit silent while the family of Miss Giuffre and the British public are angry and aghast. That the family of Virginia Giuffre, whose life was destroyed, are angry, and the public across the aisles are angry, and they both deserve to know that MPs share their outrage. So I'm not going to sit silent. If an act of parliament is required to strip the likes of Peter Mandelson and Prince Andrew of their titles, then there can be no justification from this Labour government as to why that is not immediately happening. Now, you should know the royal family did take action. Charles made it clear he would not hesitate to take divisive further action if Andrew refused to give up his dukedom and the other honors after he was caught lying about cutting ties with Epstein. It's being reported that even with all of the evidence against him, Andrew had no lack of contrition. He didn't care, and the king deemed it absolutely intolerable. Other information that's coming out about Andrew that doesn't look good was apparently while he was in Thailand in October of 2017 to represent the UK at the cremation service of the late king there, he was offered to stay in the British embassy for free. And instead, he opted to stay in hotels at taxpayer expense. Being reported, he took up an entire floor at the Mandarin Oriental. He also turned down stays in the British Embassy when he was a trade envoy for the Foreign Office from 2001 to 2010, and he earned the nickname Air Miles Andy for the number of long-haul international trips that he used to squeeze in at taxpayer expense. He always opted for hotels at taxpayer expense. Now, with all of this going on with Andrew, it was inevitable Meghan was going to take another swipe at the royal family, and she did. Articles are coming out saying she's haunted because she was forced to test her unborn baby for disabilities. Are you ready for this? On orders from the Queen. That's what she's claiming, due to the royal family's shocking hidden history of children with abnormalities. She had to endure testing for chromosomal abnormalities before announcing she was pregnant with Archie. Of course, somewhere back in history, there were some cousins that were born with disabilities, but that doesn't mean that Meghan's child would have a disability. She said Meghan wasn't happy having to submit to it, but it was non-negotiable. And she hasn't talked about it yet, but she will because it haunts her. She's keeping this one up her sleeve, maybe for her memoir. Now, here's the problem with this story. First of all, she was over 35 when she was pregnant with Archie, and that's considered a geriatric pregnancy. That's why the scan was required. It had nothing to do with her being in the royal family. This is standard for every older mother. It doesn't matter their color, their race, their social rank. Age was the problem. She was a geriatric pregnancy. Might also remind you that she refused the royal physician. She had her own team that she hired on the side. So what she's claiming is that the queen had, ordered that team to do something and she didn't have a choice. Bull crap. Ugh. All right, here we go. Because selling flower sprinkles didn't work and selling jam and honey didn't work, they're saying that Meghan is now planning a range of lucrative makeup products for as ever, if you can believe this. So remember the clips on her, her Instagram reel that didn't show the names of any products. The names were very carefully obscured. They're saying that that is a telltale sign that she's gearing up to promote her own range. They're saying this will be good for her because the markups are huge and there's the potential to make a lot of money, and that's probably why she had Daniel Martin remove his video. Here's her problem though. She keeps rebranding herself. There's no depth. There's no follow through. She focuses on publicity and her Instagram. There's no purpose. It fizzles out and then she'll move on to the next thing. This is not going to work any more than anything else she did. And finally, I told you, whenever Harry and Meghan are involved in something, they literally take it over. This is a perfect example. Don't forget, they went to the tennis tournament for the George Zafin tennis tournament in Los Angeles for, the Alliance for Children. And all of a sudden, Harry and Meghan are putting out statements and putting up pictures. They're literally taking it over. This is exactly what I was talking about. Anything that they go to, they turn the attention and make it seem like it's all about them. It's disgusting. You guys know I want your comments on this one. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down in the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.